Hello, this is Colonel Steve Akley here at the ABV Barrel Shop. This is a business I co-founded with Jim Fosnot, and we specialize in selling single barrels here at the ABV Barrel Shop. It's a great place to come in, hang out. You can taste all the whiskeys behind me. That's pretty cool. We're bringing a lot of new things into the state. There may be a lot of labels back there that you haven't heard of before. That's okay. We allow you to try before you buy, so it's the ultimate thing. You don't need to worry about mash bills or anything like that. Here's how you can decide if you like a whiskey or not. We'll pour it in a glass, and you can put it in your mouth and taste it. That's the way you want to know what is a really good bourbon. If you like it, that's the whiskey for you. It truly is. Age statements and all that other stuff, it doesn't matter. What matters in whiskey is taste. If you like the whiskey, that's the whiskey for you. Remember that. A lot of people forget that, but remember that. If you do nothing else from this video today, remember that comment. The other business that I have is called the ABV Network, and that's a company that does podcasts, makes movies. We do a lot of different things. Everything media related when it comes to the world of bourbon. Those are the two companies that I have, ABV Network, ABV Barrel Shop. Please check out both of those, get to know them a little bit better. And again, visit me if you come in here in St. Louis here at the shop. And we can talk about all this stuff and much, much more. Also, Bourbon Sasquatch channel on YouTube. I'd like for you guys to help me grow that channel. There are several ways you can do this. First of all, you can leave a comment. Comments really, truly help out. You can like this video. That's going to help out too. Give us the old thumbs up, and that assists with the algorithms as well. And then also other ways that you can do that is to hit the notification bell. That way you know when we've got new videos coming out. You can share the video. You can tell your friends about Bourbon Sasquatch. These are videos you should watch. All that kind of stuff is going to help me grow this channel, and that's something I truly would really appreciate. So thank you for your help with that. There's a reminder on the screen. That's just to show you how important it is. It's so important it's even on the screen, so check that out. So I want to talk today about one of the all-time great stories that I've got, and that is the epic adventure where Royce and I went up to Lititz, Pennsylvania, right in the middle of Amish country. We stayed in Lancaster, nearby Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we got to go meet the great Dick Stoll. For those of you who don't know who Dick Stoll is, that's okay. He's a name that does largely fly below the radar for many bourbon fans because we know the people typically from Kentucky, the Kentucky distillers. Dick Stoll was not a Kentucky distiller, though he was trained by Otis Beam, a Beam family member who actually moved up to Pennsylvania. You know, there's so many Beams, they can't all work for Jim Beam. You had to do other things, so we see him go to places like Heaven Hill, and then you've got family members like Steve Beam and, the Dance, all these integrated families that become interspersed, intertwined, and become what Beam is today. They end up doing other things in the bourbon industry, and one of them, went to Pennsylvania and taught Dick Stoll. He was the mentor of Dick Stoll, the guy who taught him the whiskey business, and Dick Stoll would be the last master distiller for Michters. Now, I'm not talking about the Michters that is out there today. You guys know Michters. I love Michters. You probably love Michters. It's a great company based out of Louisville, Kentucky now. They distill in Kentucky, but back in the day, they were in Pennsylvania. They shut the doors there on February 14th, 1990. Dick Stoll was the guy who was the last person in the building. He's the guy who put the lock and the chain on the fence that officially shuttered down Michter's distillery. Understand that there's some ruins there, that type of thing these days. It's like a national landmark, some sort of thing. So you can't just go in and knock it down, rebuild, and that type of thing. And I don't know what ultimately happened with the Michter's property, who owns it now or anything like that. But I do know who owns the brand. So Joe Malioco ends up buying the brand, and he revisits and bring back Michter's. So he and for some low price, he literally bought it, because it had gone through all the things that you do when you liquidate a company, bankruptcy and all that. Everybody gets paid out and all that, and then the name goes back into public domain at some point because they're not utilizing it to make whiskey anymore or anything like that. And Joe, for like a price of tag of like $250, grabs that name Michter's, and then he starts the brand. And it's like I said, it's a great brand today. Everything about them is first class. They make great products. Dan McKee, their master distiller, is a fun guy. And I would encourage you to check them out. But we got to go meet the last master distiller at the original Michter's, the place that has a history going back Supposedly, George Washington at one point brought his troops in there to get some whiskey, that type of thing, when we're fighting the Revolutionary War. So this distillery goes back forever. It's got an unbelievable history that's definitely worth entertaining and talking about, and perhaps at some point producing a whole video on that. But today we're talking about Dick Stoll. So this all comes about, of course, I'm doing the Bourbon Show all the way back to 2016. I'm doing interviews and things like that. And I find out that Dick Stoll is, still alive. The guy was out of the whiskey business forever after 1990. Turns out he had a hard time finding a job. He wasn't living in a big town or anything like that, and ends up finishing out his career as a janitor. So this guy, one of the all-time great whiskey makers, the guy who made the A.H. Hirsch whiskey, the one that some people say is the best bourbon that's ever been made. There's a lot of people that say that's the best bourbon that's ever been made. That was made by Dick Stoll. So that just gives you an idea about his pedigree. And it's different than the A.H. Hirsch that you see today, obviously. Someone else has taken that name now and created a whiskey brand about that. And that may or may not be a product that's for you, but you have to check that out. But I'm talking about the original A.H. Hirsch, the stuff that was sold off. And again, that's kind of a fun story as well. We may explore that one and what all that meant on a future video. So Dick Stoll closes down the distillery. Ends up having to work as a janitor to finish out his career. And then, lo and behold, after he retires, he's just having fun in retirement and, not doing a whole heck of a lot. He likes to go hang out at the local bait store and talk fishing and stuff like that with the guys and solving world problems, all the things that you do when you're sitting around with a bunch of your buddies, and just enjoying his retirement. In this parallel universe, right in Lidditz, there's a guy by the name of Eric Wolf. Eric Wolf decides that he also discovers that Dick Stoll's, still alive, and is doing some research on whiskey, and then decides he might want to get in the whiskey business, and then he reaches out to Dick Stoll. Lo and behold, they start a partnership, and they come up with Stolen Wolf. So that is a brand that was started by Dick Stoll and Eric Wolf, and they started making whiskey again. So what's kind of cool, too, is our friend Christine Riggleman. I don't know how all this came about. I mean, it's a question that I guess I have to ask at some point, and I've probably been told but forgot, but at my age, that stuff happens. So they decide they want to start distilling again. Dick Stoll wants to try it out, I guess, maybe before they get into it. Plus, then they'll have some product laid down. They'll be ahead of the game as they will look to build a distillery and that type of thing. So they go down to Virginia, Afton, Virginia, where Christine Riggleman is, and her company, Silverback Distillery, and they make some whiskey there. They lay down some whiskey. So now they have some barrels that have been laid down, made by the great Dick Stoll, in assistance with Christine and her team there. So they've got that. He's kind of back in the business, has a feel for it. They ultimately do build a distillery and get that going. And, that's how I learned that not only is Dick Stoll still alive, he's still distilling, he's back, and I have a way to get a hold of them. I can reach out to them through the distillery website. So I end up connecting and talking to Dick Stoll himself, and he said he'd be willing to come on the Bourbon Show. So that's really cool. So I, of course, call my buddy Royce Neeley and say, hey, guess who I get to talk to? I get to talk to the great Dick Stoll. He's like, well, I got to be on that show. I'm like, you're not. Well, what do you mean you got to be on that show? He's like, I want to talk to Dick Stoll too. I mean, he's one of the all-time greats. I can learn from him. I'm like, but this is a show. We've got hosts. I've got co-hosts and stuff like that. You're not one of them. I don't know how you could come on that show. And he's like, well, I do podcasts with you. Well, it's the Bourbon Daily. It's a different show. We bring in different guest hosts all the time. The Bourbon Show has set hosts. He's like, I have to be on that show. So I make a decision that I'll have Royce and Jeremy Shellum. We'll interview Dick Stoll. So we bring Royce along. He gets to do the interview, ask some personal questions, how to help his business and stuff like that during the course of the interview. After it ends, Dick Stoll just hangs out and talks with us for quite a while. We're not on Zoom at that time. We're on Skype. But after all this ends, we're hanging out talking on Skype, and Royce is asking him all these questions. He's taking notes and stuff like that, the questions that he's asking. And he's like, Mr. Stoll, I'd really like to learn more. And so Dick Stoll gives him his phone number. And Royce is just like over the moon. He's like, by the way, if you ever want to come up, you can come up anytime. I'd like to, if you want to learn more about whiskey, come up. So we hang up and the interview's over and we got what we needed and all that. And then Royce calls me and says, we got to go see him. We got to go up there. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he invited us to go up and see him. We got to go up there. So I'm like, yeah, sure, we do. Let's do that. Let's at some point we'll get up and go see Dick Stoll. So about an hour later, he calls me. He's like, and this is on like a Thursday. He's like, we're going up. We're going to leave tomorrow. We gotta meet with him on Saturday. What? I mean, I have a life. We didn't talk about dates or times or anything like that. He's like, you got to go with me. I can't do this by myself. You got to go with me. So I had to change a bunch of stuff around, but I made it happen because, again, it's an opportunity to go see Dick Stoll. So I get in my car, do what I need to do, and then basically drive up to Sparta, Kentucky, and then we get in Royce's car, and we're getting ready to leave, and Royce is like, oh, well, I gotta bring a gift. So he goes and gets 2 bottles, one for Dick Stoll and one for Eric Wolf. He thought that'd be a nice gesture. I'll bring some whiskey to give to him. So we then take off. We're going to get up there Friday night and then spend the night. And then we got to be there at Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So we're going to have a morning to hang out. But we don't want to leave that morning because we'd have to get up at, 2 in the morning or something to even get there on time. So we decided we go up there. We drive up. So we're staying in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. On the way there, Royce has got his new truck, and he's like, uh-oh. I'm like, yeah? He's like, we have 20 miles till we're out of DEF, and we're in the middle of nowhere. There's no gas stations or anything like that around. Well, I'm like, well, what happens if we run out of, well, first of all, I'm like, what's DEF? And he's like, oh, if you have, it's new on trucks that are diesel, and if you've got that, it's something good for the environment or something. I don't. If someone knows what DEF is, and you can explain it in the comments, and that'll give me a nice comment on there. And I don't know what it is. I looked it up, and it's like cow piss or something like that, but it's good for the environment. It's a second interaction with something that involved animal excrements. When I used to work in the grocery business, we used to sell this product that was for septic systems. It's like a small box, and you're supposed to put it in your toilet once a month. And the guy came in and said, if everybody would use this like they're supposed to once a month that has a septic system, we'd be like the largest company in the world. Instead, they kind of just start using it when they think about it. When they start having some sort of problems, they drop this in there, flush it down the toilet, and it goes to work. But he's like, and guess what it is? We're like, chemicals. I don't know. It's powdery, flaky stuff. He's like, no, it's sheep shit. And in this, it has these enzymes in there that'll go to work and start breaking stuff down. So I was like, oh, we're selling sheep shit now. Interesting. So, but so then he's telling me this. He's got to put some cow piss into his truck, or it's going to die. And then I'm like, what happens when it runs out? He's like, I don't know. So I'm Googling stuff as we're driving because we got no place to pull over and get gas. We don't, we're in the middle of nowhere. Nothing's showing up, like exits coming up or anything like that. And I find out that the car will still run. You can't turn it off. Once you turn it off and you're out of DEF, it won't start back up until you put DEF in there. So we know now that we can drive until we need to go get gas. So we go drive, and then finally get to a point where there's a gas station. Pull in, knowing that we got to check if they've got DEF first. We can't turn the car off because if we get in there like, oh, we just sold the last thing. So we go in, car's running, go in, check. They got the DEF. We buy the DEF, we fill it up, and then we're back on our way. We're going to go see the great Dick Stoll. A crisis averted where we get to keep going. So we get up there, and of course it's Friday night in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and there's nothing going on. By the time we get there, it's, 6 o'clock, and stuff's already starting to shut down. I mean, we're like, what about what restaurants you got around here? Like, oh, we don't really have any restaurants open. We're like, it's like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And they're like, we like to go to bed early here, so we got no place to go. So we eat at the hotel lobby. They have snacks you can buy and stuff like that. We eat there, and then they even have a hotel bar. So we go there, and we're like, could we get what's your bourbon selection like? Oh, we got Jim Beam, and that's like it. There's like Beam white label, and we have one, and then we have another one, and then we're like, and Royce is like, back in the room I got those 2 bottles. I'm like, but that's for Eric and for Dick. First of all, we should have brought another one for us, but we didn't. And he's like, yeah, I just know it's better than what we're drinking here. And, Eric will never know we didn't give it to him. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we go. We end up drinking that whole bottle, hanging out, laughing, doing all this crazy stuff and stuff like that, and just having a good time. It was pretty awesome. So then we finish off that bottle. We go to bed, and then we get up in the morning, and like, we got time to kill. Let's go experience the area a little bit. Things are opening back up. It's a Saturday morning. We're gonna go out and do some shopping and stuff like that. And I'm like, I've been hearing stuff about the shoe fly pie. That let's go out and find some of that. So we go to this first place and it says something about shoe fly pie. We walk in there and it's like overpowering potpourri, and it's a bunch of just junk that's like, it's supposed to look like antiques, but it was made like last week. So Royce is like, this smells like my grandma's place. I'm like, it smells like every grandma's place. So we just leave. We leave that place. And then we're driving around, and then we come across this lady. I mean, a full like wool dress. And she's pushing one of those lawnmowers, but not like a lawnmower gas powered. It's one of those that has the roller thing. And I'm like, why do you think she's using that? And he's like, well, it's Amish. They got rules and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, what about the rule that was made in a factory? That wasn't made by Jebediah out at the forge. That how come they can use that? But he's like, you don't understand. You don't understand the ways of the Amish. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand. So we're seeing her as we're getting closer, and then he gets right in front of her house, and he just stops. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, it's unbelievable. It was so hot out. It was like, I don't know, 95 degrees, and this woman's pushing cutting the grass and the thing, and he's I'm like, this isn't a TV show. I mean, we gotta keep going. So we end up taking off. We keep going, and then we find this other place that looked a little bit more commercial, not a bunch of junk antiques and stuff like that. There, we walk in, and they're like, hey, you want some Amish root beer? So we're like, sure, we'll take some Amish root beer. So we take some Amish root beer. We get a glass of Amish root beer. It's nice. We're drinking. It's really good. I mean, I'm enjoying it. The Amish root beer. I didn't even know I liked it, but I'm having some Amish root beer. We're walking around the store, trying to look at some of the stuff they've got and trying to find out, because it also said shoe fly pie. And then all of a sudden this guy sidles up behind Royce and says, hey, do you want some shoe fly pie? But the way he said it, the way he snuck up behind Royce screamed. He gives one of those, I mean, I'm dying laughing. And, he takes the pie still, even though he was scared and jumped and stuff like that. He still took the pie. So he's got the pie now. I got a piece of shoe fly pie. We've still got our Amish root beer. And then we see some of those Amish made rockers over there. So we just go sit over there, and we're like, you know what? This ain't too bad. We're sitting around eating shoe fly pie, drinking Amish root beer, sitting in some cool rockers. I mean, it's not a bad life we've carved for ourselves. So, that was our first taste, because both of our companies were so new and we're struggling, that was the one of the first tastes of being the king of the world type of thing. So we definitely enjoyed that. When we leave, Royce buys us a couple of bottles of the Amish root beer. Like I said, it was really good. Took it back to his distillery and let his family try it and stuff like that. So then we waste enough time that it's finally time to go see the great Dick Stoll. We go in there, meet Eric and Aviana Wolf, great people, really nice folks. And then we get to meet the great Dick Stoll. And I mean, we're like a couple of kids. You're taken back from being, I don't know, at that time, I'm, 50-ish, right in there. And, and Royce he's not even 30 yet. And we're taken back to like the third grade though. We're a couple of kids, getting the opportunity to speak to this great man. And, we set up, we get to go into the distillery itself, and then we go into like their tasting room, and we set up cameras. I set up like a recorder to record what he's saying, film some of the stuff that he was doing. And then Royce just asked him every question in the world, like how to set up a yeast room and pH levels and all this kind of stuff. And the joke by Elaine Stoll was the fact that Dick Stoll, you can't even work email or anything like that. But I'm telling you, everything when it came to whiskey, he remembered down to the 1/100th of a percent on things. So, we ask him what the pH level needs to be, he can tell you down to the 1/100th. He literally remembered all that kind of stuff. He told Royce so many different things that he needs to do. He told him how to thin out his mash, so you don't have to use enzymes. Royce was using enzymes at that point, and talking about how he wants to do things about his the way his grandfather did and stuff like that, and replicate family recipes. And then when he told Dick Stoll he was using enzymes, Dick Stoll says, "You know who never used enzymes?" And Royce is like, "No, who?" "Your grandfather. That's who never used enzymes." So he told Royce how to thin out his mash so he wouldn't have to use enzymes. He taught Royce so much in that day, and it was a full day. We got there at, I don't know, like I said, noon or 1 o'clock, and we stayed 5-6 hours, and then we're finally done, and it's like the best day ever. And we're walking around, and then Dick Stoll comes up to us and says, "Hey, you guys want to go to dinner?" And we're like, yeah. And then we're like, I wonder if it's going to be someplace fancy or something like that. No, even better. He took us to a hole in the wall, the place that he likes to go to. So he and Elaine took us out. We went to this place that had all-you-can-eat clams. By the way, they're out of the clams. So we go there, and I'm telling you, Royce and I, we just couldn't have been. We were in awe. With this man who had shared all this knowledge, was so open and willing to help out and share everything that he knew, and was just such a nice guy. And then to not only do all of that, but then to spend his personal time just hanging out and talking with us and sharing stories and things like that. And we leave that day, and we talk about we'll get back there at some point. And we actually had planned like the next year to go up to the whiskey event that they do there, but COVID ends up canceling it, and so we don't get to go to that. And then the next year after that, we have plans to go up to that same event, or maybe it's 2 years after that. It's a while after that we decide to finally get up and go see Dick Stoll again, and unfortunately he passes away. And so we never got the opportunity to go see him again. But you know what? The time that we had was amazing. We both learned a lot. We were both in in a room with greatness. I mean, an opportunity to spend some time just chatting, both formally and informally, with one of the all-time greats was one of the greatest moments of my life. And I know that it helped Royce, and I know he does so much of the things that he learned from Dick Stoll with his business. It helped kind of fast forward his progress, in doing those things. And it just a really cool opportunity, one of my greatest moments in business. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this story with you. So there you go. That's the story of the great adventure of Royce Neeley and Steve Akley, the time we went to go see the great Dick Stoll. Thank you.